Good evening. Welcome back to Be Rich. Yesterday I talked about Microsoft acquiring Active Blizzard, and the whole world seems to be talking of metaverse and people living in virtual world. Today I want to shift topics and talk about what is actually needed a country to make it a powerhouse and attract investment, and why it is not the government but private sector which can develop it. America became a great power in the late 1800s, and after 50 years of development, after World War II, it became the dominant position in the world and is still holding on to it nearly 100 years after. What was the reason for America to become such major power? America was the first country in the world to actually use crude and to realize that crude can change the way we look at world. In fact, it was a man called Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, who at his time was the richest man in the world, who basically created a company called Standard Oil, which became a dominant force until the American government broke it up into several pieces. Rockefeller, when he died, was the richest man in the world. He basically was operating out of Cleveland, and in those days, in Pennsylvania was where the maximum oil was found. But the success of Rockefeller was the use of railroads to transfer it oil from one place to another. Before railroads, oil used to be carried in horse carriages and there used to be a lot of loss. Rockefeller was the main person who pioneered the use of railroads to transfer oil and other commodities from one place to the other. In India today, we think railways is a major source of passenger traffic. Even in India, before independence, railroads was a private sector game with two, three companies dominating the place. Most of rails, as we know today, was laid by those British companies, on top of which we have broadened the gauge and put onto a broad gauge. It is not possible for a government run enterprise to build such huge infrastructure places. In today's America, though we don't hear of it much, there are two railroad companies, Western Pacific and BSNF, Burlington National, which control the railroad traffic. They take out nearly 25% of the coal required into American thermal power stations. They haul all major commodities across America. There are some passenger railroad services, but these are not the main thing. The main thing for where railroads are used in the United States are for basically transportation of freight, which is very efficient, and freight can move from one place to another very quickly. One of India's greatest problems has been lack of freight transport from one place to the other. In late 2012, Manmohan Singh understood this problem and created a dedicated freight corridor which would connect four major metros using a corridor only for freight. The news does not cover it these days, and we do not know how much progress we have made in that. The fact is that we have not connected all the four major railroads, that is, Madras to Calcutta, Calcutta to Delhi, Delhi to Bombay, and Bombay back to Madras. And this quadrilateral was supposed to be cut directly by joining Delhi to Bombay, and where Nagpur would be the area, central point where most of these railroads would meet. And because we have limited rail lines and limited rolling stocks, we are not able to transport enough goods by train. This means a lot of our goods is transferred by road, which is highly inefficient. And because it is the government which has a monopoly on railroads, the government does not create enough rolling stocks for coal, cement, and other important commodities to move from one place to another. If you really have a proper freight policy and allow private railways inside, what you will find is you will have efficient use of railroads, and there will be real competition to freight carriers who are using it on the road. This will mean two things. Freight will move from one place to the other very quickly and very efficiently. And second, this will free up the main national highways through which lorries and containers are today traveling. And you will create lesser accidents, lesser usage of those roads, less toll, and which will facilitate more passengers' cars to move from one place to the other. Second, because the railways is running on a huge loss always, there is no money for investments. Railroads require constant investments. Buffett's Berkshire invests up to $5 billion every year on maintaining his rail lines and developing it. He has 32,000 miles of railroads in America with two transcontinental rail lines cutting across the entire country. We do not have such kind of investments. The Indian Railways is not able to invest 40,000 crores from its cash flows to invest in trains. It constantly requires borrowing, and that borrowing agency has been made into a company and floated. This is because we are subsidizing second class passenger vehicle travel from the money we generate in freight. What does this mean? Because the government of any party in power wants to give cheap second class train travel to our passengers. What it does is it increases the cost of freight so much that it is uneconomical to send freight by train. Rather, people find it cheaper to send it by road. If the government relinquishes ownership or allows private competition on rails, what will happen is there will be rational pricing of freight rates, which will mean that more traffic will move away from roads into railroad and make it more efficient. Countries which have become big superpowers have huge rail linkages. The Soviet Union used to have a Trans-Siberian railway line. China has invested heavily on railway lines crisscrossing across the country. America has two duopoly of Western Pacific and Berkshire's BSNF controlling rail lines. The failure of Africa is not having a huge transcontinental network. That is also India's failing. Thank you for watching. Be rich. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written two books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support.
For hot financial news reviews and economical updates, watch Be Rich. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel.